anyone else plans to join. Good morning, everyone. I think we can go ahead and get started. Mr. Constance, good morning, Pete. Mr. Constance not available today, so he asked me to fill in for him. Could you go ahead and call the roll, Mandy?
Yes. Mr. Constant is excused. Mr. Peterson?
Present.
Ms. Kennedy?
I'm here.
Ms. Quinn Davidson?
Here.
And then for assembly members not on the committee, Ms. Allard?
Here.
Mr. Dunbar?
Here.
Ms. LaFrance? Mr. Perez Verdia? Mr. Rivera? Mr. Weddleton? Ms. Zalatel? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mandy. So my understanding today is that the bulk of our time is going to be spent with Mr. Wheeler walking us through some of the rough first draft maps that he's put together. So I think I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello, everyone, committee members. Thank you for joining us today. I'm actually going to start with a different topic and then move into the maps. The first topic I want to touch on, I'm going to screen share here. If someone could let me know when you can see my screen.
We can see it.
Okay, great, thank you. Perfect. All right, so this is our proposed first draft of how to reorganize your Reapportionment Committee webpage to make it a little bit more accessible for folks. And what I would like to do is get any feedback from members or from staff as to the content and the organization. Let us know what you think, so we can launch this as soon as everyone thinks it's ready. The main purpose of doing this is beyond just cleaning it up a little bit, is to make sure that the public comment piece has a very significant upfront location. We're going to use a tool that I'll show you here in just a second that is designed to allow the submission of comments through the course of your proceedings so that people can easily submit not only whatever written comment they may want to make, but also upload their own maps or other documents as part of their public comment. Obviously, people may have their own concepts in mind as to what they want the map to look like. And I know Mr. Constant had sent out some links that people can use to do their own at-home mapping if they want. So that's the first little piece. The second piece is to kind of show you what the comment portal looks like when you click on that public comment button. This portal is provided by a company called Smart Comment. It's a piece of software that's being used in a number of different locations, including by the state of Alaska for some of its public comment requirements, for example, with DEC and natural resources. So the idea here is that you kick off a comment. You can identify yourself as an individual, business organization, agency, or native organization. We have fields they fill out, including address. They can click back into your reapportionment page by clicking on more information. They can view anybody else's comments that have been submitted up to this point. And of course, they can put in their own comment and upload whatever files they want to upload, including, for example, any maps that they might have created in any of these formats identified here. So when they fill out the form, they can review it and they can get their own copy. So first piece, when they want to look at other comments, I have put in a test comment. So anybody else can see my comment and they can download it in a PDF format. And that download PDF includes not only anything that I might have written into the comment box, but also any files that I might have uploaded. So you get a single package of my comment. Once they submit their comment, they get this receipt, so they can, capture this and know that they submitted a comment and that it contained this PDF. Then on our side, we can manage the comments. We can do a number of different things. We can add certain tags to the comments. So we'll be able to organize the comments by different maps and or different subject matters. When someone submits a comment on more than one map, we can add tags so that their comment shows up in all of the different topic areas that they might have commented on. So if somebody submits comments for map 4 and map 2, we'll add tags so we can tell that person commented on both maps, for example. And the system creates this merged document of the entire submittal. So I'm an individual, this is my first comment, and my merge submittal for anyone to see is this. There's my written comment that I put in the box, and then here's my file attachment of my proposed district map. So we can do some different things here on this comment page, including what text we put here to give them instruction. If there are any desired changes that the committee might want on this, please let us know. Right now, I think I mentioned in an earlier email that one of the issues that you might have as assembly members or staff is that the MOA IT department, for security reasons, blocks certain links. So this link right here will have to be cleared with MOA IT if you're trying to use this from a municipal computer. Are there any? I'll pause there in case there's any questions on this this part.
So the site isn't live yet, Dennis?
Actually, it is live, but nobody knows what the links yet.
Okay.
So one of the things that I can do is actually set the date for the public comment period, just for purposes of testing it out. I have that date currently set for December 7th. So it's technically open, but the committee hasn't actually authorized the submittal of comments, and certainly there's no maps yet up for them to comment on. But
Right.
once the committee gives me some further direction, we can set a specific date and we'll put up whatever it is the committee wants me to put up for comment.
Okay, and this is, if you go to our website, this is what you would find. This is, well, the other page is the opening page.
Yeah, so this is the proposed new
Right.
page design. It's not there yet, right? So until
Okay.
yeah, until it's changed, what your page actually is this link right here. This is your current page, and there's
Right.
no public comment
one we've
submittal
seen
portal
before.
yet. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Great. Does anyone from the committee or any other members have comments on what Dennis just shared? Claire? Go ahead. Was that Claire? Sorry, let's see.
Yeah, I've got something. Can you go back to the new page website, the new Reapportionment Committee website page?
Mhm.
I was just thinking that middle box that says Reapportionment Communications Plan maybe could go away since it's in the timeline, the AIM, and then maybe that's where the link to the maps could go, because I imagine once your maps, resource data maps get published, that we'd want those pretty prominently, unless you have a different idea, Dennis, for where the maps could go.
No, entirely up to the committee. Yeah. I think you all have this PDF. So what you could do, Claire, if you want to, is just mark up that PDF and shoot it back to me, or you and I can do a call and just talk through it.
Okay.
Likewise with committee members, if you have suggestions, you can either call me or just mark up the PDF and have someone scan it back to me.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Oh, go ahead. Was someone else going to weigh in?
Madam Chair, this is Pete.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you. So Dennis, you said that we can't access this from a Muni computer. So if we want to make a comment, we have to do it from our home personal computer, or we have to contact the IT department first. Is that what you said?
I can
I
answer
don't,
that.
yeah, Claire has already put in a ticket to address this issue, I believe.
Yep, I
Go
put in a ticket, and the problem might have even just been with the registration link that you sent me to have access to the back end. So I think from the front end, it probably should be fine. And it looked like IT fixed it all yesterday already, but I haven't had a chance to check yet.
All right. Okay, great. Thanks.
Thanks,
And one more
Mr.
thing.
Peterson. Any other comments? I guess I'll share that, and then I'll go back to you, Mr. Wheeler, that I liked Claire's idea. I think that makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, we have communication plan twice here down on these buttons. So probably an easy to find link to maps will be useful when the time comes. So go ahead, Mr. Wheeler.
Absolutely, and I don't think we're confined to these three shortcuts either. So we can certainly pull that middle one out and put maps in there. And then if there's any other shortcut that people think should be there, we can do that. And I should point out that the older materials, like the older meetings, is down here at the bottom. I didn't show this piece, but we can certainly fancy this up. We can put contact information down here where the members and staff are listed as well, if that's the goal. And then of course at the very bottom is the normal Muni page for other locations. Then the other thing I wanted to add, I'm going to slide this over out of the way.
Can I ask another question, Dennis,
Sure.
just while you're off? Oh, sorry, now you're off the page.
Oh, I'll
it
go
says
back.
staff
Here.
contact. Okay. It says staff contact is Barbara and down lower and Mandy. I know Claire has been helping with this work, and this really probably the chair knows this more than me, but I'm wondering if those are the right contacts. I don't think anyone would probably contact Barbara about this, is my guess. And then do we want to have contact information if we're sharing contacts?
I'm happy to have my name added to it and be the contact to then distribute information, or maybe Mandy would be that role, but I'm happy to do that as well.
Maybe you all can work that out with the chair once he's back, you know, how you want to, I don't really know each of your roles and which portions you're doing of this committee, but I just know that you're here and have helped us with the communication plan, et cetera, Claire.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, sorry, go ahead, Mr. Wheeler.
Okay. So the other thing I wanted to point out is that as we receive the public comments, we can package those for the committee and produce those on a routine. You know, maybe it's once a week, maybe it's not that often, depending on what the comment periods are and how you set them up. But the other thing that we can do is we can add the committee members as users, so that you can have access. Now, what I propose to do is have you as limited users, which is to say that you won't accidentally delete important stuff, but you will be able to at least view certain things, certain comments. So assuming the committee would like that, you can expect that you'll get an email from Smart Comment that asks you to set your login. Again, assuming the ticket's resolved, then that should work. I think Claire mentioned to me earlier that she had tried and that was blocked by MOAIT. But if that's resolved, then you shouldn't have any trouble creating your login to become a viewer. The other thing, just as a neat feature, this maps comments based on the address the person puts in on their comment page. So over time, you'll be able to see, like, here's my comment. And you can click into the actual comment that I made. So over time, you might be able to see comments related to certain areas of town, what parts of town are generating comments on a particular map, for example. Whether that has any value to you or not, I don't know, but it's certainly something that's available in this system. So just wanted to make that note. Any questions on that? Can I assume that committee members want to be viewers in this setup?
What do you think, committee? Does that sound good? I certainly don't want to be able to delete anything, so I like that aspect of it. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Mr. Peterson.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, I'll
Great.
get that done. So you should see an invite sometime today. So now I want to move over.
Can I pause you? Crystal,
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy, does that sound good to you as well?
Thank you. Yes, that sounds good to me too. Thanks.
Okay, great. Okay, go ahead, Dennis.
Thank you. Just as a sidebar, the municipality is paying a subscription for the smart comment service. It's something like, I think it's $800 a month. We have 60 days to cancel, so we don't have to, pay a full year necessarily. It actually can manage multiple projects, so DEC uses it to handle all of their public notice projects. So just as a sidebar, that this product can be used all over the city if you guys like it. We reserve judgment till we get through this. All right, now I'm going to move on to maps. So we are at the very beginning here. I want to preface my comments by saying that these are just concepts. They're not endorsed by any committee member. They're not in any way endorsed by Resource Data either. We were not in the business of promoting one map over the other. And these have not been deeply analyzed in terms of, for example, Voter Rights Act compliance. I just wanted to get the conversation started based on a couple of ideas that were thrown out there so we can show this to you. This first map I'm going to slide over, and I know it's not drilled in. This is just a static PNG file. Whoops, sorry, resize there. All right, so let me get to my notes. This is what I'm calling map 2, which is an option where JBEAR stays with Eagle River Chugiak, and we pull the population needed from District 1 from the other districts around it. Keep in mind that municipal boundaries go out into the inlet, so you're going to see boundary lines that pull in a lot of the water courses here. So that's why you get this weird District 1 sliver that runs up along the western edge of the military base. And that is in part because that's a U.S. Census block. So that's why it pulls up that weird shape, but it's all in the water. What I would be curious to know as we drill into that is if you have any comments on layout, labeling, colors, anything sort of high level visual impact. And then for another map I want to show you, it's what we are calling map 3. And this one I'm going to actually turn over to Laurel, who's on our team. She's my GIS person who's helping with actually creating the maps, and she's going to do an interactive show and tell with the actual software that we're using that the Assembly acquired for this project. So with that, Laurel, I'm going to turn it over to you if you're ready.
And Dennis?
Yes, Dennis, hello.
Yes.
Thanks. Sorry,
sorry.
continue.
Dennis, no worries. Maybe Dennis, while Laurel's pulling that up, could you just give us a reminder, and Claire's prepared to pull up the timeline if we need it as well, and we could talk about that in 5A on the agenda, but sort of next steps from here. So you're just showing us possible iterations of maps, and then you will put these, what happens next? I guess if you could just remind everyone, and for those who are just joining us.
Sure. What happens next is we're looking for ideas, suggestions, input from the committee members about maps, so that we can then drill in and produce whatever number of maps the committee members are interested in. Committee can then decide which of those maps it wants to put out for public comment. It could be 1, it could be 12, whatever the number of maps is the committee is most interested in getting public feedback on. So to keep with the timeline, ideally we'd have those maps at the committee's next meeting, so the committee could deliberate on which ones it would like to at least get started on the public comment piece. Certainly no final decisions on what the committee is going to recommend, but at least get it so we can get public feedback.
I'm sorry, so you're saying by the next meeting, you'd like what specific actions from the committee?
Any further direction or input from the committee members on what they want to see? And that may involve having to drill in deeper into specific boundary lines, but we need some more feedback from the committee on where it wants to go with this.
Okay, so committee members should be ready to share feedback. And will you be sending us all of these draft maps you're going to show us today? So we have PDFs or we have something we could look at?
Yes, we'll try to do that in such a way that they're relatively drilled in, so you can kind of get a better sense. And Laurel's going to drill in on at least one of them, so you can kind of see the level of detail we're talking about.
Okay, great. And I see Mr. Peterson has a question as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Dennis, so this sample map that you showed us a couple minutes ago, is there somewhere that tells us what the population numbers are when the maps are drawn that particular way, so that we can see how close we are to the number we're aiming for, or is that something that is going to happen later on?
So the Esri tool that the city is using is the lesser of the two options that the assembly considered. The other option was the $150,000 version, right? This particular version doesn't have an export built into it that adds that deviation table. So we're going to have to do that for you. And yes, whatever we produce to you will include that labeling so you can see the deviations. It just takes a little bit of more manual work on our side to add that to it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, Laurel, if you want to screen share.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. I will preface this by saying I apologize on behalf of my dog because there's work going on the lot behind us, and she is not a fan of the equipment. So I apologize if she interrupts. But can you guys see my screen right now?
I can. Yeah.
Okay, and it does show the map here.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so what you're looking at is within the Esri redistricting app, one of the versions of the maps that I drew. This particular one, I was aiming to incorporate comments that indicated that J-Bear should be split up and have some of it, the Fort Rich part, go with Eagle River, and Elmendorf go with the downtown Anchorage district. So that is what you're looking at here. I've got this split here, trying to approximate the best division between the two parts of the base. So I did that, and down here on the bottom of my screen is where we can see the population deviations for each district. In this one, District 4 is under by the most, about 2,500, and District 5 is over by the most at 1,600, but I haven't done the math to see what percentages those are over and under. But at this full scale, District 2, in order to get close to that target number of population, now goes pretty much down the entire east side of the municipal boundaries. I'll zoom in here. It takes, starting at the eastern boundary at the start of, this Chugach State Park, I believe, is this boundary here, and just straight down as much as possible. So it actually now includes, Eagle River and Chugach, as well as the southern communities of Girdwood and Indian and Portage. So, but it does get close to the target population. I will say, as I was working on these, I did try as much as possible to make the boundaries follow either major streets, if I was able to do that, or let's see, in the case of the boundary between District 6 and 3, I believe it's following the southern border of Campbell Lake there. That's why it looks wonky like that. But that's what it's doing, is following the southern border of that lake there. But as you can see, between District 4 and District 6, it's following Abbott. Because I feel like that's easier to, kind of understand as, dividing lines and making sure it's more clear and compact as much as possible. But yeah, so that's this one map with the division of the base and also just strictly looking at population. So yeah, that is that one screen. Dennis, I can show some of the other maps if you want, but if we want, we can just leave the screen share at this one.
Let's, if you have map 4.
It's map 4 is not completed.
Okay, okay.
I can show map 1 or 2, since those are completed. I can show them on my screen.
Let's try 2.
Map 2, okay. The opening version 2. Okay, let's get that. All right, here's version 2. With this version, I started kind of conceptually focusing on District 1 and just seeing where it had to expand out to in order to pick up the necessary population numbers that it needed to. With this app, the smallest level of selection that I have access to is the census block data. And some of those have weird shapes, as Dennis pointed out. This portion here going up the coast, bordering the military land, that's just one census block. So I started with District 1 and just seeing how, what needs to change to get that to the population. And another thing I tried to do with this one was to keep this border between District 2 and District 6 as much as possible aligned with the old border. And I noticed that the old border between these two districts just goes straight across in a straight line. But the census blocks don't do that, actually. These weird zigs and zags are what the census data is naturally doing on its own. And I cannot split them or change them in this media right here. But luckily, nobody lives there, so it's not affecting a population. But in this map, the entire base, Elmendorf and Richardson combined, stayed with District 2, and that took it to a population of about 1,400 under the target. But the other districts all hewed very, very close to the population target that we had set. As you can see, they are very, very close. So that is map 2, and I can drill in a little bit closer so you can see a little bit more of what it's doing, within the Anchorage Bowl itself. We've got District 5 here going all the way to the border of the state park straight down. And then here also, I did try to follow as much as possible roads and things. This border between District 6 and District 3 right here is is following Diamond all the way west instead of the border of the lake like the other map had. It goes follows up to here, follows Diamond all the way up to Seward Highway right there, as you can see.
So Laura, let's pause there and see if there's any questions at this point.
Yeah.
And I see that Mr. Constant has joined us. Welcome, Mr. Constant. Do we have any comments from committee or otherwise? Oh, go ahead, Mr. Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize. I'm not actually on this committee, but assembly members are typically allowed to ask questions.
Of course.
My question is, I know that the charter basically says there are 6 districts, and it kind of describes them, I think, in broad terms, and I'm wondering the degree to which you are constrained by those, or am I mistaken about what the charter says?
I could pull up the charter real quick, but I'm going to guess I should defer to Mr. Gates to the extent that that might pose more of a legal question than a mapping question.
And my understanding was that Mr. Gates would be here, but I don't see him on the list of participants. Mr. Gates, are you here?
I believe he's out of the office today.
Right.
So I guess a very basic level, have you guys been informed that the charter does that? Or am I, you know what I mean? So you can see, like, I think it says, like, there's an East Anchorage district, there is a downtown district. I mean, I think it's very broad, but I just want to make sure that that has been communicated.
Yeah, so
Mr. Constant, you want to go ahead?
I could be wrong, but I think that's in the code.
I
Okay.
would concur with Mr. Constant that I think it's in the code, but I think as Mr. Dunbar indicated, I think they're just descriptive by label and not by physical boundaries.
Right. But they do provide some east and west limits, right? I mean, literally, they say, like, there is a West Anchorage district. So we couldn't, for example, have a radical change where we're just doing, like, horizontal bars across the municipality, like that kind of thing.
Well, assuming it complied with the legal requirements, I think you could just relabel things in the code.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, when we passed ballot measure 12, I thought we had amended the actual charter. Certainly we did to add a 12th member, but I thought it was specific. It was like a 12th member. Well, I thought there was more in there, but okay, no worries.
I'll add to that if I might. It just in the charter it says 6 districts and 12 members. It doesn't get into the subdivisions. Subdivisions are in the code.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. So Dennis, I'm getting a little confused with the maps because we're going out of order. So how many maps do you plan to prepare, and which have we seen and which have we not seen?
So we currently have just 4 concept maps. Map 1, which you have not seen, is just considering population without any of the committee comments we've received. Map 2 you've seen, Map 3 you've seen, Map 4 is in progress. It splits J-Bear, but has Elmendorf going to the East Anchorage district. And she's still working on what that does to the District 2 Eagle River Chuyak area. It's potentially it could force District 2 picking up part of South Anchorage like we showed in the other map, and I can imagine that one will be will generate some conversation. So that's where we are right now, and as you can see, Laurel's making some guesstimates on what you might want for these boundaries when you really drill in, and that's where we need the committee feedback. Most importantly, when you really get down into that granular level.
Okay, great. So you'll have the 4th one soon, and then you'll circulate them to the committee or potentially to just assembly members generally. I'm sure they'd like to know that where we are on the process. And then you'll take feedback and we'll hope to discuss that feedback at the next committee meeting. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, if the committee wills it so, what I would propose doing is take these 4 maps, produce something that's more drilled in so you can actually see where these lines are, whether they're on a road or a riverbank or along the edge of a lake, so that you can mark them up however you wish. And we can create additional maps if we have direction from committee members as to a particular concept they want to see represented. So yes, we'll give you these 4 with some detail that you can mark up and produce any others that we're asked to produce.
Great, that sounds good to me. And Ms. Kennedy is in the queue, so let's let her go ahead. And then if Mr. Constant wants to weigh in as the chair on process and timeline or anything, please feel free, Mr. Constant. Go ahead, Crystal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my question in this, and maybe we've mentioned it before and I just missed it or forgot, but is there a way to also in all of these maps include some kind of overlay that would show the current districts? So in other words, even though you've got a map with new boundaries and they're all in those solid black lines, is there a way to put another line in there, maybe a dotted line, that basically overlays the current district?
Yeah, I think Laurel is doing that right now.
Ta-da! That's
Oh,
the
cool.
the old districts are the red lines.
So is that available to do that function with every one of the maps?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you,
I
Madam
think that's
Chair.
it. Yeah, thank you, Ms. Kennedy. I think that's a great idea. And maybe in the, again, I don't know how you're going to produce them, Mr. Wheeler, and Laurel as well, but if you can share this sort of information in whatever you send us, I think it'd be helpful. Go ahead, Mr. Constant.
Yeah, and just from a stylistic perspective, I would ask we avoid red lines. That's the history and not the future. Another color would be fine. And we can work with Reprographics to actually generate maps printed.
Sounds good. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Wheeler.
I was just going to comment. We probably could pick a color that's more friendly towards people who might have color blindness issues. I don't know what that color is off the top of my head, but I'm open to suggestions, of course.
And for me, it's historic issues.
Great. So any other feedback or comments on, how these would be best viewed by members, or what else we might want to see between this meeting and the next? If Pete, Forrest, Jamie, other members, feel free to weigh in if you have comments.
Thank you, Austin. I'm okay right now. I'm just trying to digest it all.
Okay, yeah, same. Great. Well, feel free to get in the queue if anyone has comments after they thought a little more about it. Do you have anything else to share, Laurel and Dennis, or are you ready to move on to the next bit of the agenda?
We are ready to move on to the next bit.
Okay, great. Well, I trust you'll work with the chair to make sure those maps are distributed, and let us know if you have any other information to share. And we'll go ahead and go on to the timeline update. I don't think we have any updates, but I had asked Claire if she would pull up the timeline just to remember or remind all of us sort of what the process will look like, especially now that we're starting to see draft maps.
Okay, I'm working on pulling that up.
Thanks, Claire.
All right, you see that now?
Yep.
Okay, this is our communications plan, which is a living document. So I'm showing this one instead of the AIM because that this one will have the most up-to-date information. So we're right now on the December 9th meeting. Our next meeting is the 6th. So one thing we might want to do today, if we have time, is talk more about where and when these town halls will be, because it'd be nice to have them. It would probably be nice to have them set up before the next meeting. And then at the January 6th meeting, you all could talk about who's going to do what, how the town halls are going to be set up and that sort of thing. And then January 10th would be the deadline for submission of third-party maps. And then you can kind of see what comes next after that.
Claire, do you mind if I interrupt you there and ask, since we have Mr. Constant on, I might ask a couple questions?
Yeah, that's all I had for now.
Okay, great. I was thinking we were meeting in a couple of weeks, but I can understand why we're not because it was originally scheduled for the 23rd. But Mr. Constant, Dennis was saying we'll submit feedback and we'll discuss those and then come up with maps that we want to produce to share with the public. How do we do that over the next month? I mean, if the only meeting we have is January 6th, does that give us enough time to give feedback to Dennis and then come back and discuss that feedback in those maps and then have them produce final drafts? Or how do you see that playing out?
Thank you. I think mostly feedback should be given to Dennis on specific issues. It could be through staff, Mandy, who's helping with the process. So we avoid open meetings and he just kind of organizes and collates that stuff. We could opt to add another meeting in early January to preload the process for the meeting on the 6th. But the idea was we have maps. Now it's time to start thinking about what the specifics are. We're going to get a little bit more detailed maps produced from these so that we can see where the lines are exactly. And so really it's a committee decision, but the plan was that we would come back and have a more thoughtful conversation about the specific maps after the holidays, first part of January.
Okay, thanks. Dennis, do you have any thoughts about the timeline and how this fits into what you all are doing and how you want to receive feedback to try to stick to this?
Madam Chair, I have a suggestion.
Sure.
The suggestion would be to do a press release as soon as possible, and assuming the smart comment feature is up and running, that says, here are 4 concept maps. The public comment period is open on these maps. People who want to comment on these maps may do so now, and the deadline for third-party maps is Jan 10, so that people have, about a month to be thinking about the concept maps and whatever maps they might want to submit. Otherwise, I'm concerned that Gen 10 deadline might not be workable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, does anyone have thoughts about that suggestion? Go ahead, Chris.
Claire, did you get that in terms of the press release content draft?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think Mandy and Dennis and I can work out the website and all that stuff by the end of this week, and then announce it next week and hopefully get the community to really dig in and study all the materials. Yeah, that makes sense. I think it would be good then to have the town hall times and locations set to promote that if possible.
I think that's a good idea. Mr. Chair, Mr. Constant, had you thought about whether you want to do those town halls? I assume at this point we would be scheduling them via Teams, or have you worked with the committee staff to figure out how we want to do that?
I had actually thought we were going to do them in the Wendy Williamson auditorium there, or at the library.
Okay.
I think maybe one of them would be in Eagle River was the idea, but maybe one in person, one virtual would be helpful.
That's a good idea.
I hadn't really thought about Eagle River. We talked about Eagle River. We could go to Girdwood. We could go to South Anchorage. There are lots of places where there are 25 to 50,000 people. So I thought we'd originally just agreed to do them both at the library, which is the center, but we could do it however the committee wants.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. I see Ms. Kennedy in the queue. I like the idea of doing one at the library and one digital, so that for folks who maybe aren't comfortable coming to a big space in the public at the library, they would have the opportunity to weigh in as well. Anyway, I'll let, go ahead, Crystal.
Oh, thank you. I think we need one that is at least kind of live and in person, mostly because there are going to be a lot of people that have more troubles viewing the maps online at a Teams meeting. I mean, it is difficult. It is more difficult. And I think with a live meeting, we could actually have some of those maps blown up so that you could see the detail, and people, could kind of wander freely between whatever maps. It's a lot more difficult to look at maps when you can only look at one at a time on your screen. So anyway, I think it's probably true there are some that won't want to participate in person. So if we just put out the word that one of them is in person, the other is not, that would give people options. But again, I think it's very important that we at least have one of them in person, because I know it's just more difficult to see things online than in, since sitting on an easel, if you will, or taped to the wall, so that people can wander around and really get a good perspective of what the maps are looking like. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent point. I totally agree. Go ahead, Miss Allard.
Thank you, Austin. I'm kind of, I'm trying to decide too. I get that we want to save money and time and energy and have that neutral location at a great location, the library. I'm just wondering, when you think of the library, most residents of Eagle River are about anywhere from 25 to 40 miles from the library, if you take into consideration those who live in Peters Creek. And I'm concerned a little bit about those who are out in Girdwood. I have a feeling that, we're a totally different city, even though we're under the municipality umbrella. And I'm wondering, I could probably state correctly that the Eagle River community would show up, and it would be somewhat of a full house. We do have a community room out here. I know we could get a spot at one of the high schools, or even the elementary school in one of the gymnasiums, but maybe we can not totally take it off the table and just kind of think about that a little bit. And Crystal and I could ask, some of our constituents how they feel, because if it's only 10 people, then obviously, but if it's more than that, I would ask that maybe we could reconsider having one. There's no doubt in my mind Girdwood would show up, but I believe that they would be still in that one particular district. But would you just consider that, just laying that out there? But I do agree fully we could do one virtual and one in person for sure. Thank you, Austin.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jamie. Chris, did you want to make your comment about, well, I'll just read out of the chat and then I'll let Mr. Peterson go if that works. Chris is just making the point that he'd like to have large format maps printed and available from Reprographics, which I think is sort of consistent with Ms. Kennedy's comment. Go ahead, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I like the idea of one virtual meeting and one in person. I just think that covers all our bases, and yeah, if we can get the maps side by side, I think that makes them much easier to compare. And so yeah, I think we have some good concepts here. We're headed in the right direction. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Pete. Mr. Constant, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So one thing to consider about doing community outreach is that in coordination with committee members and staff that's helping and supporting, members could in fact organize their own small scale town halls regionally in their districts, community councils, and can be supported with materials, maps, and information. And so I don't want people to feel like they can't kind of take out and evangelize this process on their own or in coordination with the overall process. So there can be a difference between the larger and the kind of more regional meetings.
Madam Chair, I can't raise my hand in the chat, but could I speak? Claire?
Sure, go ahead, and then Ms. Allard will be after you, Claire.
Well, I just had an idea that there's, I'm from the library. There's libraries in most of these districts. We could print up the big maps and have little displays at each libraries at each library with kind of a link of where people can find more information. And then if members were to host a meeting in Eagle River or Girdwood, they could just grab those big maps and take them to whatever community council or board of supervisors meeting.
Can I ask, when you say there's libraries in most districts, I guess coming from West Anchorage, I don't,
Right.
are you just speaking of Girdwood and Eagle River?
Well, in Muldoon and Mountain View. So
Okay.
West Anchorage would be, we could
Where
get
the-
a library. We should have a library in West Anchorage, but we'd have to find a different place for West Anchorage, but it would cover a pretty wide range of the community.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Go ahead, Jamie.
Thank you, Austin. I appreciate what Mr. Constant just said, and I think that would be awesome if we could just be able to have the tools to be able to set that up in one of our community rooms. That would solve it right there. I appreciate that. I think that's a wonderful idea. Thank you.
Perfect. I was sort of thinking that would make sense too. So it sounds like we're all coalescing around one at the library at LUSAC and then one digital, and then with the option and support to share materials, whether that be at libraries or at individual sort of town halls organized in communities. Does that sound like where we're at? Any objection to any of that?
Austin,
Great.
can you repeat that?
Yep, sure. I'm happy to. It sounds like the group is coalescing around the idea of having two town halls, two sort of formal or whatever town halls, one at the LUSAC and one on Teams, and then having, you know, some staff support or materials that we could leave in different places in the community or use for members to host their own meetings in their communities. And Barbara is in the chat reminding us that Claire has prepared reapportionment fact sheets for members to share with constituents as well.
Yeah, so I think I could make a kit of big printed maps from Reprographics, the fact sheets, and any other handouts, and then work with the different districts to figure out the best place to put those. And then when time comes for you to make a presentation, you could just run and grab it and have it all like kind of a to-go kit ready.
That sounds great to me. Okay, with that, I guess I would ask that Claire and Dennis and maybe the chair, I'm happy to help, but probably the chair, help get the press release ready, identifying where those town halls will be held, and get information out about there being initial draft maps, and that, you know, we'll be taking feedback and there may be others.
I did have a couple other dates to share. Can I scroll down real quick?
Sure, yeah.
I was just going to point out that I did get some events scheduled. Mr. Peterson's going to speak at the Federation of Community Councils meeting next week. Ms. Kennedy is going to speak at the Chugiak Eagle River Chamber of Commerce on the 5th, and Mr. Constant will be at the Make It Monday Forum on the 10th. If any other members do line up events or want some help lining up events to speak at, just let me know. And I'll prepare a presentation that can be shared by everyone.
That looks
Awesome.
great. Yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
I apologize. I'm driving, and to go back into you, I'll probably, snowplow somebody. So, so I decided to interrupt really quick.
Go ahead.
All right. You know what, Claire, I think that's wonderful. And Crystal and I have been texting back and forth. The truth is there is I'm having a dine-in dish on the 7th of January in Eagle River in our community room. So is that the date that we're doing for the reapportionment town hall? Is that the same day?
The town halls would be the 12th and 13th.
Okay, I'd be wondering, do you think we could get I guess I want to say supplies, but things for the presentation that maybe Crystal and I can do it that first week of January? You think those things would be ready for us by any chance?
I could get my stuff ready. Dennis, would you have maps that I could send to Reprographics by then?
Yes, we'll get it done.
Great.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Okay, thanks you guys. And I'll get in contact with you, Claire.
Perfect. I'm glad to add that to the schedule.
Great. Thank you all. So we're running out of time, so we'll just go ahead and run through the agenda if no one else has other comments on those items. I don't think there are any updates on communication plan. We got to see the timeline again and talk through that a little more. And it looks like for Mr. Constant's annotated budget that there's no updates on the budget itself, or I'm sorry, annotated agenda, unless anyone has one to share. And then finally, we had state final plan adoption updates by Mr. Gates, but Mr. Gates is not here today. Mr. Constant, did you want to share anything, or did you want to just wait until Dean's back?
I can give a very brief update, only to say that the state plan maps were adopted as we previously discussed. One lawsuit has been filed by the Matsu Borough, and it's anticipated that by tomorrow, at least one or two additional suits will likely come. The deadline for filing of suit is Saturday.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Constant. Excellent. With that, we'll go ahead and move to audience participation. Do we have any members of the audience who wish to participate today? Doesn't look like we have a lot of outside folks. If you'd like to participate, you have to press *6 to unmute on your phone.
Mark Butler from Community Councils.
Hi, good morning, Mark. Go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thanks very much. To play Eugene Haberman, Carl Haberman's card, I was disappointed that you guys were seeing visuals and all we had, the rest of us, were just the call and the audio only. So it would have been great to see both if you guys were seeing it, to get to the regular public meetings that you have. Things are on the wall, there's handouts, you can go pick up a copy of the handouts and so forth. But I'm really excited by the chance that you will have press releases that can come out, of stuff posted, at least the initial 4 plans or so forth. And then we will send that out to 10,000 people through the Community Council Center. That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. And that's a great reminder about what folks on the phone are able to see. So we'll definitely get, Dennis showed the new website page that we'll have and links to maps. So we'll definitely try to get that up as soon as possible so everyone can see. And again, these are just rough maps, but excellent point. Any other member? Oh, Mr. Wheeler, go ahead. He wants to respond to that.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and my apologies to the committee for not producing screenshots to Mandy to show, but I'll get screenshots of the smart comment pages and the other stuff so she can add it to this packet if that's all right with the committee.
Sounds great. Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Looks like I have one other person unmuted. Go ahead, 907-240. Go ahead.
That's me, Mark Butler.
Oh, that's Mark. Okay. Okay. It doesn't sound like we have anyone else who wants to participate. So Dennis and Laurel will look forward to getting more detailed maps and more information so the committee and other members who would like to could review those. I guess, Mr. Constant, I would ask, do you think it makes sense for them just to send it to the committee or to send to all members, or what's the best approach?
I'm sorry, send what again?
The packets they produce, Laurel and Dennis, of the maps and any information they want to share.
So yeah, that's great. They have every right to send it to everybody. We just can't. And so I tend to send it to Mandy to have her circulate, just to keep it through the clerk's team and our staff who's running the committee. But Dennis has all of our contacts and can do it as well. So it's really, it doesn't matter.
Okay, I guess I'd suggest,
staff and contractor.
I would suggest, if it's okay, since we have, since we can't really forward them to each other or share them, I would like it if he could have Mandy distribute them to all members, just because I know we have Forrest and Jamie on the line right now who are not committee members, and I'm sure other members will be interested in where we are in the process. So if no one objects, perhaps Dennis could do that, or Mandy with a, here's where we are. We want to share this with members so you understand the process, kind of thing.
yeah, I think that's perfect. And just make sure Claire and Mandy are both included in the communication that goes out.
Perfect. Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you all. Talk soon.
Thanks, Austin. Thanks, everyone.
Good meeting.